Before we begin this night prayer, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Sometimes, God, the night feels too quiet for words, too heavy for sound. I try to speak, but what comes out doesn't carry the truth of what I feel. The syllables fall flat, and I know you already know. Maybe that's the only comfort left tonight, that I don't need to find the right words for you to understand. You've seen this tiredness before, this kind that isn't about sleep. It's the kind that lives deep inside, where thoughts blur into prayers, and prayers fade into silence. I don't even know what I'm asking for anymore. Maybe not strength, not answers, not even peace. Just you, just your nearness, just the knowing that I'm not unseen in the dark. There's something in this stillness that hurts, but also something sacred, as if you're closer when everything else steps back. My own voice feels small, but maybe that's where you begin to speak. I used to think I needed to impress you with my faith, to sound like I believed perfectly even when I didn't. But tonight, I'm too tired to pretend. I'm just here, soft, cracked, unguarded. And maybe that's what you wanted all along. Maybe you never asked for beautiful words, only honest ones. Maybe you've been waiting for this unedited version of me, the one that simply says, It's strange how silence can ache, how it can feel like both a wall and an embrace. I've tried filling it with noise before, music, scrolling, thoughts that spiral, but none of it reaches where you are. You don't live in the noise. You wait patiently, in the quiet, like someone who already knows I'll run out of distractions, eventually. And when I do, you're still here, still kind, still listening to what I can't manage to say. I think you see the prayers behind my eyes, the ones that never make it into language, the ones carried only by breath. There are nights, like this one, when I realize that love doesn't always need sound. That maybe you don't measure closeness by how clearly I speak, but by how honestly I let myself lean. Maybe the pause between words is also holy. Maybe my trembling silence is its own form of worship. I hope you hear it that way. I hope you're near enough to feel how much my heart reaches for you, even when my voice fails. If I could find words, I'd tell you how empty I feel and how full I still am of longing. I tell you that I miss the sense of you, that palpable warmth, that invisible steadiness that sometimes lights a corner of my spirit. Tonight, it's harder to find, but maybe faith is just believing. You're still here when I can't feel you. Maybe it's less about certainty and more about surrender, trusting that even when my heart is quiet, yours is not. You're speaking somehow, aren't you? Through the breath I still take, through the small pulse of life that keeps me anchored, through the thought that reaches toward you, even as it falls apart halfway there. I think you hear that. I think you answer even the prayers that never finish. Maybe what I call silence is actually you holding me still, stopping me from rushing ahead, inviting me to simply be here with you, unproductive, unpolished, loved anyway. I remember nights when I had words, full ones, brave ones, poetic even. I talked to you like I had something important to prove, but those prayers, I think now, were easier. They kept me busy. They didn't make me face this quiet, where faith feels like breathing underwater, slow and unsure. This is harder, but it's also real, and I think you prefer real. So I'll stop trying to decorate my honesty. I'll let the tears mean what they mean. I'll let my silence speak. I'll trust that you read it clearly, that you know what I need more than I do, because I really don't know anymore, except that I need you. Not in some grand way, not as an idea, but as presence, as nearness, as warmth in the coldest corners of me. I need you to sit in the middle of this quiet and not leave. I need you to understand without explanation. Maybe that's love, to be known without being fluent. To be held when I can't even reach back properly. to be understood before I can confess. So if all I can give you tonight is this quiet ache, take it as my prayer. Let it reach you the way sound never could, and stay with me here, not waiting for me to speak better, not expecting a full sentence, just stay, like you always do, when I fall into silence again. There's a weight tonight that words can't carry, and I think you know it before I even start to speak. The sentences I try to build collapse in my chest, and I sit here with the ache that language can't hold. I used to think that prayer meant forming something beautiful, a string of faith-sounding thoughts that reached you like music. But the older I get, the more I realize that real prayer might sound more like breathing, or crying, or not saying anything at all. Maybe you don't need the poetry. Maybe you just need the truth that hides behind it. And tonight, the truth is simple. I'm lost for words, but I'm not lost from you. It's strange. The more I try to talk, the more it feels like I'm drifting away from what I actually mean. So I let myself go quiet. And in that quiet, I feel you're there, like air I didn't know I was still breathing. The night feels thick, but I know you're not far. You've always had this way of being near, without needing to be loud. Sometimes you come as peace, sometimes as ache, sometimes as the smallest reminder that I'm still loved, even when I have nothing left to say. Maybe that's the miracle. You never wait for me to sound spiritual before you show up. I can almost imagine you sitting here beside me, patient, listening not for my words, but for the rhythm of my heart. Maybe that's the language you understand best. Not what I say, but how I sit in your presence, even when I don't know what to do with it. There's something humbling about that. It makes me realize how much I depend on you, without even realizing it, how much my entire being leans toward you, like a plant toward light. The truth is, I don't know how to make sense of everything anymore. Some nights, it feels like my faith is just a handful of scattered pieces, and I'm too tired to try to fit them together. But maybe that's where you meet me. Not at the polished altar, but in the mess on the floor. Maybe faith isn't about having perfect words. Maybe it's about sitting here and whispering, please don't go, even when everything else feels uncertain. You've seen me try to hold it together. You've watched me fill the air with prayers that were half hope, half fear. But tonight, I'm out of performance. I'm not here to sound strong. I'm here to be known. And somehow, that feels like enough. Because I remember all the times you've met me in this same stillness before, when I thought I was praying wrong, and you were already answering with presence. Maybe that's what you've been teaching me all along, that presence is the answer. That I keep looking for something to change around me, when you're changing something within me. That silence isn't proof of distance, but a space where you make room for what can't yet be said. You meet me in that unfinished place, and you remind me that I don't need to have it all figured out to be held. I think about how many nights you've sat with me like this, when I couldn't name the emotion, when I couldn't hold the hope, when I just existed quietly, and you called that enough. I think about how gentle you are in those moments, how you don't rush me, how you never turn away when the silence stretches too long. You're not impatient the way I am with myself. You don't need my explanation. You've always been fluent in the language of the heart, even when the heart can barely speak. Sometimes I wonder if this is what faith looks like from your side. Watching your children stumble through half prayers, half sobs, and still loving every sound, every pause, every breath. Maybe you see beauty in the breaking. Maybe you see worship in the reaching. Maybe you see me, even here, sitting in the half-light, saying nothing, trying to find you through the fog of my thoughts. So I'll stay. I'll let this be prayer, this sitting, this breathing, this letting go of words. I'll let you read what I can't write, hear what I can't say, because you've always been the one who understands the unsaid. You've always been the God who hears the trembling of the soul before it becomes a sound. And maybe that's why I need you more than I can say, Because nothing else reaches the places that you do. Nothing else stays when everything else fades. Stay tonight. Don't wait for my words. Just stay. Be near enough for my silence to lean against you. Be gentle with what I can't express. And when morning comes, if I still don't have the right words, let me know that you loved me through the quiet, too. There are nights, Lord, when even the smallest sound feels too sharp, when the weight of everything unspoken presses against my chest, and I can't seem to breathe without feeling the ache of it. I know you see it, how I reach for you, not with eloquence, but with need, how my soul stretches toward you even when my voice doesn't follow. I wish I could tell you everything clearly, where it hurts, what I've lost, what I'm afraid of. But the truth is, I don't even know where to begin. The thoughts inside me are tangled like threads that won't come loose, and every time I try to pull one, another tightens. So I stop fighting it. I let the silence have me. I let it settle, heavy and real, and I whisper in the quiet. You know, even when I don't. You know when I'm too tired to pray and too restless to sleep. You know the words that tremble inside but never find their way out. You know the shape of every unanswered question, every disappointment that I've tucked away so neatly. Others can't see it. You know the nights I've smiled on the outside while crumbling in the dark, and you stay anyway. You stay through the silence, through the pretending, through the break. Maybe that's why I can't stop turning towards you, because I've never known anyone who loves me in the middle of my silence as you do. Sometimes I think about how you must have listened to the prayers of so many who also had no words. The groans of grief, the breath of exhaustion, the stillness that says everything. And maybe all those quiet prayers have built something like a chorus that carries through time, a music made of longing and surrender, reaching all the way to heaven. Maybe tonight my silence joins theirs. Maybe you're hearing not my weakness, but my belonging in the human ache that's always been reaching for you. I try to imagine what it's like for you, watching me here, small, fragile, unsure, and still calling me beloved. There's a tenderness in that thought that undoes me. You see all that I hide, the smallness, the doubt, the fear, the wanting, the trying that never feels enough. And instead of turning away, you draw closer. You come into the very places I avoid within myself. You sit in the dim light with me, and you don't ask for performance. You just wait until I realize that being seen by you is safer than hiding from myself. There are words that live deep inside, beyond language, the kind that rise from memory, from loss, from love, that has nowhere to go. I think you dwell there, in that sacred interior space where words fail. That's where I meet you, not in the sentences I craft, but in the ache that lingers underneath. That's where prayer becomes less about saying and more about being, less about seeking answers and more about resting in the fact you are the answer. I remember how many times you've pulled me back from despair, not with thunder or miracles, but with a whisper, a gentle awareness that I am still held. Sometimes it's through the way light falls on the floor, or the still rhythm of my own heartbeat, or a thought that says, I'm not finished with you yet. You never shout, you never demand, you just remain constant, patient, and I think that's what holiness truly is. Not distance, not grandeur, but presence that refuses to leave. I wonder if you hear the tiny cracks in my heart tonight and treat them as prayer. If you trace every ache like it matters, because it does to you. You've never required perfection from me, only presence. You've never demanded clarity, only honesty. So here I am, with my half-formed sentences and full heart, trying to stay near you even when I don't understand how. You know the words before they form, but maybe you also know when I don't have them at all. Maybe you'll love me just as much in the pause as in the praise. Maybe you're teaching me that I don't have to fill every silence, that you're already in it waiting. The world teaches me to speak, to perform, to justify, but you teach me to rest, to trust, to let the quiet hold what I can't. So I'll stop searching for better words. I'll stop apologizing for being human, for being quiet, for not knowing what to say. I'll let my need be enough. I'll let my longing stand as the truest prayer I can offer. Because if you are who you say you are, gentle, near, merciful, then even my silence is safe with you. Even my confusion is wholly in your hand. Stay with me through this wordless night. Don't ask me to rise or explain. Just sit with me here until the light returns. Let my heartbeat count as prayer, my breath as trust, my stillness as surrender. And if all I can say is I need you, let that be enough for both of us. Because I do. I need you more than I can say, and I believe you hear even that which I cannot speak. There's a kind of quiet that doesn't soothe. It stings. It fills the air like smoke after a fire, thick with what's been lost. I sit in that quiet tonight, and I can't tell if it's grief or fatigue that's heavier. I've said all the prayers that made sense, all the ones that once felt strong and now they sound hollow in my mouth. But maybe that's okay. Maybe this emptiness is where the real conversation begins. Not the polished kind, not the confident faith, but the broken reaching that still turns toward you when everything inside me feels unfinished. I don't have the language for this ache anymore. The best I can do is whisper your name, not as a sentence, not even as a request, but as the only sound that still feels alive. God. Sometimes that's all I can manage. And in that single word, I think you already hear the 1,000 things I'm trying to say. I miss you. I'm tired. I'm scared. I still hope. Maybe that's what prayer becomes in the end. A single name, held like a heartbeat, repeated through the dark, until faith begins to breathe again. You've always known how to find me in the wordless spaces. Even before I knew how to pray, you knew what my silence meant. I wonder how many times you've stood beside me unseen, steady as breath, while I tried to carry everything alone. How many times you've caught the prayers that never formed, the tears that fell before I could stop them, the sighs that only heaven could understand. Maybe you've been closer in those moments than in all my fluent prayers combined. I keep thinking about how small I am and how vast you are, and yet somehow you notice me. Not as a task to fix, not as a project to complete, but as someone you love, someone you choose to sit with even when I bring nothing but my silence. The world keeps telling me that love is earned, that presence must be justified, that I need to make myself worthy. But you never join that chorus. You just keep showing up, uninvited, unbothered by my lack of composure. You call my weakness a place of meeting. You call my stillness holy ground. Tonight I don't want advice or revelation or even resolution. I just want to be sure you're here. I want to feel your nearness in the places that ache the most. I want to believe that you're not tired of my quiet, that you're not disappointed by how little I have to offer, because I am trying. Even if my trying looks like sitting in the dark and trusting that you understand the parts of me I can't put into words. You've seen how I keep reaching for control, how I fill silence with activity, how I avoid the stillness that might reveal what I don't want to face. But you don't scold me for it. You wait until I run out of ways to distract myself. You wait for this, the soft collapse, the surrender, the realization that I can't pray my way into peace by talking more. Sometimes peace only comes when I stop talking altogether and just let you be God. I think of how the psalmist once said, "Be still and know that I am God." I used to read that as instruction. Tonight it feels like mercy, because being still isn't natural for me. Knowing you are God isn't easy when I want to be in control. But when I finally fall quiet, when all the sentences unravel and I'm left with only breath and heartbeat and hope, That's when I start to feel it. The knowing that you are still here, that you haven't gone anywhere, that even when I feel nothing, faith is still happening beneath the silence. There's something sacred in this surrender, not the kind that wins, but the kind that stays. The kind that keeps breathing even when there's no grand breakthrough. Maybe faith is less about speaking light into darkness and more about trusting that light is already holding the darkness from within. That you're already here, humming softly under the noise, anchoring everything I can't make sense of. So if I can't pray tonight, let my stillness count as prayer. If I can't find words, let my tears speak. If I can't lift my head, let my breathing be my confession of need. If all else fails, let my heart keep whispering your name until morning. Because even if I can't say it out loud, I still believe. I believe you hear me, you hold me, and you never tire of my silence. And maybe when I look back someday, I'll see that these wordless nights were the ones where I was closest to you. Not because I prayed the right way, but because I finally stopped pretending I didn't need you as much as I do. Tonight, I need you, not in theory, not in metaphor, but here, in the dark, where everything honest begins. Stay with me in this quiet, and let your presence say what my heart cannot. There's something about the late hour, when the world softens and the air feels almost suspended, that makes truth harder to hide. I can't pretend I'm fine tonight. I can't dress this quiet up as calm or call this ache something noble. It's just me, Lord, tired, undone, and still trying to hold on to you. My voice is smaller than I remember it being, my thoughts slower, like they're walking barefoot through fog. I keep searching for the words that once carried my faith, but they don't come anymore. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe you never needed my words as much as I thought you did. Maybe you just needed me, stripped of performance, laid bare in the silence that says everything. I used to think prayer meant movement, like I had to chase your attention, convince you to care, earn your listening. But the longer I sit here, the more I realize how unnecessary that striving is. You've been here all along, waiting in the quiet. I was too afraid to enter. I filled my nights with noise, podcasts, lists, thoughts, fears, anything but this stillness that feels like standing on the edge of my own heart. But you live here, don't you? In this ache, in this emptiness, in this wordless longing that still turns its face toward you. You're not in the thunder, not in the lightning, not in the rush. You are in the whisper, the smallness, the space between one breath and the next. I think about how many nights you must have sat beside me, unnoticed. Nights when I mistook your quiet for absence. When I cried into a pillow believing no one heard, but you did. You always did. You caught every soundless prayer and stored it like something precious. I wonder if, in heaven, silence is sacred because it holds all the things we never knew how to say. Maybe that's what this is, a holy pause, a space where I stop trying to prove and start allowing you to see me exactly as I am. I'm learning that love isn't loud. It doesn't always arrive as rescue or revelation. Sometimes love just stays unmovable, unstartled, steady as breath. That's how you love me. You don't rush in with noise. You wait, patient as dawn, until I remember how to reach for you again. And in that remembering, something soft begins to shift. Not the situation, not the ache, but me. My fear starts to loosen. My clenched spirit starts to rest. My heart begins to believe that I'm safe here, even without the words to explain why. You know me better than I know myself. You see the places I've hidden, the emotions I've locked away, the dreams I buried under duty and doubt. You see how I try to be strong when what I need is to be held. And instead of scolding me, you draw near. You don't ask for eloquence. You ask for honesty. You don't ask for rhythm. You ask for surrender. So here it is, all the unsaid things, all the unfinished prayers, all the quiet reaching that has no language. Take it, Lord. Read it. Hear it the way you always do, from the inside out. There's relief in finally stopping the performance. In realizing that you're not counting the number of prayers I say, but noticing the direction of my heart. And tonight, my heart is still facing you, unsteady but sincere, tired but open. Maybe that's what faith looks like when the words run out. Staying turned toward the light even when I can't describe it. Trusting that you know what my silence means, that you can hear love in the spaces where speech ends. You've carried me through so many nights like this, when I had no vocabulary for hope, and yet somehow I woke up still breathing, still held. I don't know how. You do it, how you stay constant when everything in me flickers. But I'm grateful. Grateful that you don't measure my worth by my strength. Grateful that you translate my sighs into prayers. Grateful that you remain when I have nothing left to offer but need. So this is it, my last word tonight, or maybe my lack of one. I don't have grand phrases or closing lines. I just have this truth. I need you. I need you more than I can say, more than I can think, more than I can even believe sometimes. I need you in the spaces between thoughts, in the pauses between heartbeats, in the quiet where I don't know who I am anymore, but I still want to be yours. Stay near, Lord, not because I deserve it, but because you always have. Be the soundless comfort when my words fail, the gentle steadying when my faith shakes, the love that remains even when I don't. Teach me to rest in what cannot be spoken, to find you not in my language, but in your presence. And when morning comes, whether I wake with peace or with questions, let me remember this, that you were here in the silence, in the stillness, in the ache, that you never needed me to say the right thing. You only wanted me to stay. And I did. I stayed, and you did too. It's deep into the night now, the kind of hour where time feels almost paused, where the world goes quiet enough for the heart to finally speak, though even now mine hesitates. I sit here with the faint hum of the world outside and realize how much I depend on your unseen nearness. It's strange how presence can be invisible, but still undeniable. I don't see you, I don't hear you in the way I wish I could, yet something inside me keeps leaning toward you, as if drawn by memory more than proof. Maybe faith is exactly that, remembering the sound of your voice even when it's silent. There's a part of me that wants to fill this stillness with movement, to do something, say something, fix something, because the quiet feels too honest. It holds up a mirror, and in it I see how fragile I really am, how much I want to be certain, how much I crave your reassurance that I'm not drifting alone. But you don't rush in with explanations. You don't tidy the chaos. You sit with me in it, letting the silence breathe. And somehow in that waiting, I start to feel steadier, not because the ache is gone, but because you are still here. I think I've mistaken silence for neglect so many times. I've wondered why you didn't answer, why you let the stillness linger. But tonight I sense something different, that silence might be its own kind of mercy, a soft room where you teach me to listen without panic, to trust without evidence, to love without language. Maybe the reason I can't find words is because you're teaching me to hear instead, to hear the small things, the rhythm of breath, the pulse beneath my skin, the quiet hum of life still going. Each one whispers the same truth. You are not abandoned. It's strange, Lord, how the deeper the quiet, the more I realize how much noise I carry inside. All the doubts, the what-ifs, the unspoken fears, they swarm until I remember to breathe again. And when I do, I feel your calm slipping gently into the spaces I didn't know were clenched. You never force peace on me. You let it unfold, like dawn finding its way through blinds. I never notice the exact moment light begins, only that eventually The darkness isn't whole anymore. That's what your presence feels like. Subtle, patient, unstoppable. If I could, I'd tell you everything tonight. Every worry that loops through my mind. Every regret that hums under my skin. But you already know. You've always known. And somehow, you don't turn away. That's what undoes me. That you keep choosing to stay. That my unspoken fears don't scare you. My silence doesn't offend you. My weakness doesn't disappoint you. I think maybe you've been waiting for this. Not the strong version of me, but the soft one. The one who finally admits she has no words left, but still keeps her heart open. It's humbling to realize how small the distance is between desperation and worship. They almost feel the same. Both are forms of reaching. Maybe you see no difference between the two. Maybe the moment I whisper, "I need you" with trembling breath is the holiest moment of all, because there's no pride left, no pretending, just dependence. And maybe that's what you've wanted all along, to bring me to this raw, quiet honesty, where I can finally rest in being yours. So I'll let the silence have me. I'll stop chasing the perfect prayer and let my heart speak in its native language, ache and hope, intertwined. I'll stop trying to sound faithful and instead be faithful enough to stay here, still, waiting, believing you're listening. I'll believe that you understand the prayers that sound like tears, that you hear the confessions that never form, that you can translate the shaking of my hands into surrender. You've been my steadiness in the nights that made no sense. You've been the warmth that never asked for proof. You've been the quiet answer hidden inside every question I couldn't voice. And maybe tonight isn't about finding resolution at all. Maybe it's about remembering that love doesn't always resolve. Sometimes it simply remains. And you remain. When I wake, whenever that happens, let me remember that this silence wasn't empty. It was full of you. Let me carry that truth into tomorrow, that even when I can't say much, you still hear everything. That even when I'm quiet, I'm not alone. That you've always been here, closer than my next breath, holding what words can't. Stay with me a little longer, Lord. Stay until the stillness turns gentle, until my heartbeat feels like prayer again, until I can rest without needing to speak. Because tonight, maybe more than ever, I need you more than I can say. The night feels endless, Lord, but maybe that's what I need. The kind of quiet that stretches long enough for all the noise inside me to settle. I used to think you spoke only through light, through certainty, through answered prayers. But now I see how much you say in the waiting, in the stillness, in the soft ache that refuses to fade. This space without words isn't empty. It's where you teach me to stay, not to fix, not to flee, just to remain open long enough for grace to find me again. There's something almost sacred about running out of ways to perform. I've built so many prayers out of habit, words that sounded right, sentences that echoed things I once believed. But when I'm this tired, when every practiced phrase slips away, what's left feels truer. There's no filter here, no performance, just the slow unraveling of everything that isn't essential. And beneath it, I find you, not disappointed by my weakness, but quietly present in it, like a heartbeat that never stopped even when I stopped listening. I don't know what it is about silence that both terrifies and heals me. Maybe because silence means I can't hide. When the noise fades, I'm left face to face with all that still hurts. The things I tried to bury under busyness, the grief I said I'd move past, the fear I disguised as control. But you don't flinch at any of it. You just sit with me as it rises to the surface, patient as always, unafraid of my mess. And in that still companionship, I begin to understand. Maybe the goal isn't to silence my pain, but to let you hold it. There's something in me that still wants to be strong for you, as if you need protecting from my humanity. I try to edit myself, to make my prayers tidy, to hide the rough edges of disbelief. but you see right through that. You've never been impressed by my polish. You've always been drawn to my honesty. The more real I am, the more room there is for you. So tonight, I'll stop pretending. I'll bring you the half prayers, the broken thoughts, the raw edges. I'll bring you the places I still don't trust, and I'll trust you to hold them anyway. It amazes me, Lord, how you stay, how you never rush me through the process. You don't demand clarity or progress or gratitude before you give comfort. You simply are, steady, present, faithful. You don't fix the silence. You fill it. And that's a mystery I can barely comprehend. That the God who shaped galaxies is willing to sit in the quiet with someone too tired to speak. Sometimes I wonder if this is what love really looks like. Not grand gestures or loud miracles, but presence. The kind that endures without needing to announce itself. You've shown me that love can exist in stillness, that sometimes the truest affection doesn't sound like answers, but feels like peace. You love without pressure, without noise, without performance. You love by remaining. And maybe that's why I keep returning to you, because you never demand that I be more than I am. The world keeps moving fast while I sit here unmoving, but I'm beginning to see that stillness isn't failure. It's faith in disguise. Faith that you're still at work even when nothing seems to happen. Faith that your quiet is not distance, but depth. Faith that I don't need to fill the silence, I just need to rest in it. Maybe this wordless place is where faith matures, when I stop talking long enough to finally listen, not for noise, but for presence. You've been whispering in the background of every thought tonight, haven't you? A small, steady reminder that I'm safe, that nothing in me, not confusion, not exhaustion, not silence, can separate me from you. You're not waiting for me to find the right words. You're already inside the spaces between them, shaping them into prayer. So if this night stretches on, I'll stay with you here. I won't rush the quiet. I won't run from the ache. I'll let my heart learn the rhythm of your stillness. Teach me, Lord, to love this quiet, not as emptiness, but as invitation, to see that every breath I take is already a conversation with you. And when dawn comes, when the world stirs back to life, let me carry this quiet with me, not the heaviness of silence, but the peace of it. Let me remember that you never needed my words to hear me, that you never needed my perfection to love me, that even in my unspoken places, you are already there, closer than my thoughts, kinder than my fears, holding me gently through the spaces I can't fill. Because even now, after all this stillness, I still don't have the right words. I still don't know how to say what you mean to me, but maybe I don't have to. Maybe you already know. It's almost morning now, though the sky hasn't decided yet if it wants to turn to light. There's that thin in-between, not night, not day, where the air feels softer and the silence changes shape. I can't tell if I've prayed or just existed beside you these hours, but maybe that's all prayer really is. Just being with you, even when nothing makes sense, even when I have nothing left to offer but presence. The longer I sit here, the more I realize how much of life happens in this in-between, between certainty and doubt, between holding on and letting go, between words and what can't be said. I've spent so much time trying to define faith with speech, to measure it by how confident it sounded, but in this quiet, I see that faith has never been about sound. It's about direction. It's about the way my soul still turns toward you, even when my voice can't follow. I think you love me most in these unguarded moments, when I'm too tired to perform, too empty to pretend I understand. You never needed the polished version of me. You always wanted the honest one, the one that trembles, the one that doubts, but still reaches, the one who stays, even when she can't explain why. Maybe that's what trust is, staying when nothing feels clear, staying because you have never left. I can feel it now, the quiet steadiness of you, not a rush of emotion, not a sudden revelation, just the calm knowing that something larger, gentler, truer is holding me together. You've always been that unseen gravity in my chaos, the center that keeps me from flying apart. Every breath tonight has been a kind of surrender, not dramatic, not heroic, just small and real. And I think that's the kind you treasure most. The world will wake soon. People will move, speak, rush. I'll have to step back into the noise. But before I do, I want to stay here a little longer, in this fragile space where silence feels alive and I can almost hear the heartbeat of grace. I don't want to forget this unspoken closeness that doesn't need proof or poetry. I don't want to lose the tenderness of knowing you understand me better than I understand myself. You know what I'll face when the light comes, the worries that will try to fill my head again, the things that will demand strength I don't yet have. So, before the noise returns, let this quiet become my armor, not hard or heavy, but gentle, like a memory I can carry inside me. Let every breath I take through the day whisper what I learned here. You are still with me. There's a strange beauty in needing you this much. For so long, I thought need was weakness, something to hide, something to overcome. But tonight, I see it differently. Need is the doorway through which you enter. It's the truth that keeps me humble, that keeps me close. My need isn't a flaw. It's the pulse of my relationship with you. It reminds me I'm human and that you delight in meeting humanity where it's most fragile. So I'll keep this prayer simple, God. Thank you for hearing what I couldn't say. Thank you for being patient with my silence, for never confusing it with absence. Thank you for staying near when my faith was only a whisper, and when words come back to me, when I find strength again. Help me not to forget what I learned here in the quiet, that you loved me just as much when I couldn't speak. The first light is beginning to stretch across the horizon now. I watch it, and it feels like you're speaking again, not through words, but through light. The soft kind that doesn't demand attention, but gently reminds me I'm still here. You're still mine. And maybe that's all I'll ever need. Not a flood of answers, not even certainty, just the steady truth that even in my silence, I am known. Even when I can't speak, I am heard. Even when I can't explain, I am held. That's enough for tonight, and for whatever comes after. Because even now, with morning almost here, my prayer hasn't changed. It's the same quiet confession that carried me through the dark. God, I need you, more than I can see. The night is nearly gone now, but I can't let go of it yet. There's something sacred about these last hours before daybreak, something that makes the soul quieter than any sleep could. It's as if the darkness itself became a chapel, and this stillness, this long silence, was the prayer that neither began nor ended, only deepened. I don't know how to describe it, Lord. It's not peace exactly. It's softer than that, humbler. It's the feeling of having been heard without ever finding the words. I keep thinking of all the times I thought prayer was supposed to fix things, that if I said the right words, the ache would lift, the fear would fade, the answers would come neatly. But this night has taught me something I never saw before, that sometimes the miracle isn't resolution, it's endurance. Sometimes faith isn't the light that ends the darkness. It's the quiet decision to stay in the dark with you, trusting you're here even when I can't see your face. There's a strange kind of comfort in realizing you never asked me to be articulate, never required me to wrap my feelings in theology or perfect phrasing. You wanted truth, and truth, as it turns out, doesn't always speak in sentences. Sometimes it just trembles or exhales or cries without sound. And you listen anyway. You don't need volume to recognize devotion. You don't need clarity to understand love. You hear me in frequencies that only heaven can translate. You've always been like this, patient with my pauses, gentle with my uncertainty. You let me unravel and still call it prayer. You let me fall silent and still call it faith. I think of how much noise fills my life. The talking, the rushing, the need to fill every gap, and how easily I forget that you move best in the spaces I leave empty. Tonight, you filled those spaces with your quietness, and I realized it wasn't emptiness at all. It was invitation. Maybe this is what it means to grow closer to you, not to know more, but to need less proof. Not to have the answers, but to rest in the mystery. Maybe faith matures in the places that stay unanswered. Not because you're absent, but because you're teaching me to find you in silence, to believe that your love isn't a response to my effort, but a presence that simply is. There's a tenderness in that truth that steadies me. You love me without requirement, without performance. You don't wait for me to be composed before you draw near. You meet me in the unraveling. You bless what breaks. You make holy even the moments that feel hollow, and I think that's what makes you different from everything else I run to. You don't fill the silence with noise. You fill it with yourself. The first light has begun to spill through the window. It's faint, but it's there, a quiet reminder that even the longest night has an edge where dawn begins to bloom. I used to think light erased darkness, but maybe it just joins it, softens it, teaches it to fade. Maybe that's what you've been doing all along, softening the heaviness, teaching it how to turn into peace. And now that I can see a sliver of morning, I find myself whispering one last prayer, not because I've found new words, but because the old truth still holds. I need you. I need you in the gentle hours that come next, when the world wakes and expects me to move, to speak, to be. I need you to walk quietly beside me, to remind me that the stillness I found here isn't something I have to lose when I open my eyes. Let the calm I found in this silence be a language I carry through the day. Let me move slower, listen deeper, love gentler. Let the memory of your quiet presence hum beneath everything. The laughter, the noise, the ache, as a steady reminder that you are always nearer than my words, always kinder than my fears. And when night returns, as it always does, remind me that I don't have to start over, that this conversation never really ends. It just shifts from words to silence and back again. Because you're always here, hearing everything my heart cannot speak. So even now, as dawn unfolds and language begins to return, my prayer stays the same. It's softer now, but it's truer than ever. God, I need you more than I can say. Always have, always will. The sky has finally turned pale, Lord. The first real color of morning presses softly against the horizon, and I'm still here, sitting where the night left me, wrapped in that strange quiet that's more presence than silence. It feels like you're still here too, not as something I can grasp, but as something I can rest against. The world is about to wake, and I should probably move, but I hesitate, because I don't want to leave this space, this small, wordless place, where I finally stopped trying to sound faithful and just was with you. Maybe this is what real closeness looks like. Not conversation, not clarity, not even comfort, just nearness, just being seen and known, without the pressure to explain. It's strange how much of my faith has been built on words, prayers, promises, declarations, as if you could only be reached through speech. But tonight, stripped all that away, and what's left is something quieter, raw, and far more alive. It's the kind of faith that breathes instead of talks, that trusts without needing proof, that whispers without sound. I think you meet me best in the spaces I'm most afraid of, the ones where language breaks and I have nothing to offer but need. Maybe that's why you love silence so much, because in silence there's no pretense, There's no eloquence to hide behind, just the truth of who I am and the truth of who you are, finally meeting without distance. I didn't realize how much of my prayer life was me talking at you. This sitting, breathing, waiting feels more like prayer with you. It's humbling to think how long you've been patient with me. How many nights I filled the space with noise, mistaking activity for connection. But you never pushed back. You let me talk until the noise burned itself out, until the truth could surface beneath the ashes of my own striving. And when it did, I found you not waiting for me to finish, but already there, quiet and steady, holding the words I hadn't said yet. Maybe this is why you sometimes allow the silence, because it teaches me to stop performing and start listening. It teaches me to feel instead of explain. It reminds me that love doesn't demand articulation. It only asks for attention. You don't measure our relationship by how much I say, but by how much I stay. And tonight, through all the hours of nothingness, I stayed. That has to count for something, doesn't it? There's something healing about realizing you never needed my strength. You never needed me to hold everything together before I came to you. You've always been drawn to the undone, the unraveling, the soft confession of, I can't anymore, but I still want you near. You've always chosen to dwell in the broken places the world avoids. You turn them into holy ground. And I think this night, this long, quiet unraveling, has been one of those holy places. As the light grows stronger, I feel a strange peace rising. Not the kind that fixes anything, but the kind that tells me I don't have to fix it. The kind that says I can enter the day with the same honesty that carried me through the night. That I can bring this quiet with me, not as emptiness, but as the soft echo of your presence. I don't need to fill the hours ahead with noise. I can walk slowly, breathe deeply, and let your calm move through me like a pulse. You've taught me something tonight that no sermon ever could, that you hear what hearts mean, not what mouths say, that you dwell in the pauses, not just the praise, that love can exist in silence, and sometimes silence is love. It's what lets me feel you most clearly, the way light can't be seen in glare, but only in shadow. So before I rise, I'll whisper one last time, though I know you've heard it 100 different ways already. I need you, not for a miracle, not for understanding, not even for peace, though I crave all those things, but simply because life without your nearness feels hollow, because you are the only thing that steadies me when words collapse, because everything in me bends toward you even when I don't know how to say why. Stay with me through the noise of the day, through the movement and the voices and the tasks that would try to drown this stillness. Stay like breath beneath my breath, like warmth beneath the cold. Let me carry the quiet assurance that I don't have to earn your attention. I already have it, that even if my words fail again tonight, your love won't. And if this morning feels heavier than hope, remind me of this night, of how you sat with me when I couldn't speak, how you listened when I only breathed, how you filled the silence until it became sanctuary. I'll go now into daylight, still wordless, but no longer afraid. Because you are here, still near, still listening, and even if I never find better words than these, I think they'll always be enough. God, I need you more than I can say. The morning has unfolded now, Lord, and the world feels louder again. The hum of life has returned. Footsteps, voices, distant engines, the constant rhythm of things beginning. And yet, inside me, there's still a residue of the night, a softness I don't want to lose, the kind of quiet that feels stitched into my ribs. I carry it like something fragile, something sacred. It's strange how a night spent wordless with you can leave me more awake than sleep ever could. I thought silence would empty me, but instead it filled me with a presence that feels deeper than sound. Now, As light settles into the corners of the room, I realize that what I needed wasn't to be heard by the world, but to be held by you. You didn't answer with words. You answered with stillness, the kind that seeps under the skin and steadies the shaking. I can still feel it, the slow rhythm of peace that doesn't explain itself. And maybe that's how you move, quietly, almost imperceptibly, but always toward restoration. I used to chase grand signs of you, the obvious miracles, the moments that could prove something to my doubt. But I see it now. You live in smaller spaces, in the inhale before I speak, in the exhale when I finally let go, in the hush between thought and surrender. I don't need to make you big to know you're real. You've always been enough just as you are, gentle, unhurried, near. There's a kind of humility in realizing that words were never the bridge between us. My need was, my dependence was, my quiet reaching toward you in the dark. That was prayer, all of it. Every breath I took through fear, every sigh that carried more truth than speech, every tear that slipped without permission. You heard all of it. You translated what I didn't even understand about myself. You answered in a language only love could speak. And now, in daylight, I see how desperately I still need you. Not because I'm weak, but because you've become the rhythm I live by. The world teaches self-sufficiency like it's holiness, but I've tasted the emptiness of that kind of strength. I don't want independence from you. I want intimacy with you. I don't want to outgrow my need. I want to grow deeper in it, because dependence on you isn't bondage, it's freedom. It's the only kind of strength that doesn't shatter under pressure. You've shown me, over and over, that I don't have to come to you full. You never ask me to pretend I have it all together. You don't call me unfaithful for running out of words. You meet me where I fall, silent, and remind me that love doesn't need explanations. You don't measure my devotion in volume, but in surrender. Every moment, I yield the illusion of control. You breathe something alive back into me. Sometimes I think about how often I've run from this stillness, how I've filled my days with noise just to drown out the deeper ache. But the truth is, it's here, in the quiet, where I finally hear what matters. The world shouts, but you whisper. The world rushes, but you wait. And I think I'm finally learning that your patience isn't passivity. It's presence that doesn't panic. It's the kind of love that doesn't need to fix everything at once because it's already holding everything that's broken. So as I step into this new day, let this calm stay rooted in me. Let the silence I found with you become a foundation I walk on, not the absence of sound, but the fullness of peace. Let me speak fewer words and mean them more. Let me listen longer. Let me notice the divine in ordinary hours, in sunlight across a floor, in laughter that finds me unexpectedly, in the simple miracle of being alive and loved. And when I feel myself slipping back into striving, when I start thinking I have to impress you with effort, remind me of last night. Remind me how you met me in nothingness and made it enough. Remind me that your love doesn't require performance, only openness. You've carried me through the dark, through the silence, through the wordless hours that once felt empty but now feel sacred. You've taught me that prayer doesn't always sound like faith. Sometimes it just sounds like breathing through the ache, and that's enough for you. So if all I do today is whisper your name under my breath while I move through the noise, let it count. If all I manage is to remember that you are here, that you are kind, that you are steady, let that be worship. And if tonight I fall silent again, let my quiet reach you the same way it did before, raw, unfinished, but real. Because I think I finally understand it now. Lord, I don't need eloquence. I don't need certainty. I don't even need answers. I just need you, the way the earth needs morning, the way lungs need air, the way love needs presence more than words. So stay as you always do. Stay in the pauses. Stay in the noise. Stay when I forget how to pray, and when I come back to silence again, which I will. Let it never feel empty, but whole. Because every night and every morning, every word and every silence comes down to this same truth, the one I'll never stop whispering even when speech fails me again. God, I still need you. More than I can say. More than I can ever say. The sun has climbed higher now, Lord, spilling light across everything it touches, careless, bright, unstoppable. The room looks different under this light, but I still feel the residue of night inside me, that quiet that held me through every hour when I had no words left. I can move again, breathe again, but I don't want to lose that stillness that tethered me to you, because somehow the silence of last night said more than any prayer I've ever spoken aloud. It taught me that communion isn't always conversation. Sometimes it's simply coexistence. My small, trembling life resting inside your unchanging one. The noise of day has already started to gather. I hear it pressing from outside, doors closing, people talking, the soft metallic hum of morning work. Life is happening. And here I am, caught in the tender overlap between stillness and motion, learning how to carry you with me into both. I used to think I met you best in quiet places, in the hours when everything else had fallen away. But now, I'm beginning to realize that you don't leave when the silence does. You don't withdraw when the world gets loud again. You walk into the noise with me, quietly, unchanged. That thought alone steadies me. It means I don't have to chase sacredness anymore. I can bring it with me. It means I don't have to escape the world to feel you. I can learn to recognize you right here in its middle. In the blur of schedules and screens and small talk, you wait. You hide in eye contact, in laughter, in the breath before frustration turns into grace. You're there in every pause I allow myself to take, whispering, I haven't gone anywhere. I know I'll forget this, Lord. I always do. I'll move too fast. I'll drown in noise again. I'll feel that ache of distance and think I've lost you. But maybe that ache isn't absence. Maybe it's invitation, a reminder that you live not far away but just beneath the surface, waiting for me to notice. Maybe every ache is a call to return, to remember the quiet, to remember how to breathe with you. You've shown me that need doesn't have to be desperate. It can be holy. It can be steady. It can be as natural as breath, the constant reaching of the finite toward the infinite. I don't have to apologize for needing you so deeply. It's the most honest thing about me. Need keeps me real. It keeps me soft. It keeps me close to the one who never grows tired of my reaching. So as I walk into this day, let my need be my prayer. Let it thread through my hours like a heartbeat, quiet, unseen, but always there. Let every frustration remind me to turn inward, not into myself, but into you. Let every silence between conversations echo with the same presence that filled last night's stillness. Let every exhale be a way of saying, I still need you. I still belong to you. I don't want to pray for strength that makes me forget my dependence. I want the kind that keeps me leaning, the kind that doesn't harden me against life, but keeps me tender within it, the kind that lets me move through a noisy world without losing the rhythm of your quiet love, because I think that's what faith really is, not certainty, but cadence, a continual turning back toward you again and again without shame for how many times it takes. You are the thread through every moment, through exhaustion and joy, through confusion and calm. You're the silence beneath my speech, the warmth beneath my skin, the still point I circle without even realizing it. Even when I drift inside your mercy. Even when I forget, you remember. And that remembering is enough to hold me until I find my way back. So keep me aware, God. Keep me tender to your presence. Let me see you in what is small, hear you in what is ordinary, trust you in what is quiet. Let me not look for you in lightning when you are already here in light. Let me not wait for revelation when you've already whispered truth in stillness. Let me not demand proof when the air itself carries evidence of your nearness. And when the day starts to pull me apart, when tasks pile up, when people need more than I can give, when I start feeling like I have to hold everything together again, bring me back to the memory of this night and morning. Bring me back to that room where silence became sanctuary, where you proved that being understood mattered more than being heard. Let me remember that you never left, that you never needed my eloquence, that you never once demanded perfection before presence. If tonight comes and I am empty again, if the day wears me down to the same wordless place, remind me not to fear it, because now I know that place. I know what it feels like to meet you there. I know that when I fall quiet, I fall into you. And maybe that's the whole point of prayer after all. Not to fill the air with words, but to keep returning to that one eternal truth that lives deeper than language, stronger than fear, softer than any explanation I could give. God, I need you more than I can say. Let that be my beginning, my middle, and my end. Let it be the rhythm my heart keeps, no matter how the world moves. Because that's all I have, and all I need to be here still needing you, still loved, still held, still heard, even without a single word left to speak. The day has almost lived its full circle now, Lord. The light that entered gently this morning is fading again, curling around rooftops and settling into that muted gold that signals the quiet return of night. And somehow, as everything slows, I find myself back where I was, in the same silence, though it feels different now. Last night, silence felt like a wound. Tonight, it feels like a witness. It holds what I lived through today, the thoughts I couldn't name, the small mercies I didn't see in the moment, the ache that followed me like a shadow, but didn't win. It's all here, gathered in this stillness, waiting to be handed back to you. I don't know how to summarize a day when nothing grand happened, yet everything inside me shifted by degrees. I didn't find words today either, not really, but I carried the quiet from last night like a thread through every moment. It was the rhythm beneath my noise. It made the ordinary feel softer, the heavy moments less sharp. Even when I got lost in thought or buried under small anxieties, I could feel something subtle reminding me to return, not to perfect faith, just to awareness, to you. It's humbling, God, how much of life happens unnoticed. How many times you whisper through things I rush past. The way a stranger's kindness lingers longer than I expect. The way sunlight touches glass. The way air feels different after rain. I used to look for you in revelations, but now I see you everywhere. But quietness blooms. Maybe the world isn't divided between sacred and ordinary at all. Maybe it's all sacred, and the only difference is whether I'm paying attention. You've been teaching me that attention itself is a kind of prayer, that noticing is worship, that every moment I pause long enough to see beauty or to let gratitude breathe, I'm already speaking with you, even if I never say a word. And today, even in my distractions, you are patient. You let me wander, but never let me drift out of reach. You let me struggle, but never alone. You let me ache, but always with grace, hidden inside it, waiting to unfold. I want to end this day the way I began the last night, not with a request, not even with thanks, but with honesty. I'm tired again. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the deeper kind, the one that comes from carrying unseen things, the kind that makes me ache for quiet and gentleness. And you are both. You are the quiet that doesn't accuse, and the gentleness that doesn't demand. You are the place where exhaustion turns back into trust, There's something about the rhythm of needing you that feels different now. It's not desperation anymore. It's belonging, like gravity. Not pulling me down, but keeping me grounded. I don't reach for you as if you're far away. I rest in you as if I'm already held, because I am. I've always been, even when I ran, even when I doubted, even when I filled my silence with fear. You were still here, unmoved, patient, unoffended by my humanity. It's strange how your love never rushes. The world measures progress by speed, by productivity, by visible results. But you measure it by presence, by willingness to stay, by how open I am to being changed slowly. And that's what this night feels like. Slow healing. Not sudden, not spectacular, but real. I can feel you in the gentleness of it, the way you loosen the knots one at a time, the way you turn pain into depth without needing to erase it first. I don't have grand words to close this day with. I only have the same truth that's followed me through every hour. I need you. I need you in the smallest things, in patience, in courage, in kindness. I can't fake on my own. I need you in my breathing, in my forgiving, in my remembering to keep going. I need you not as a fix, but as a foundation, as the quiet strength that keeps me from falling apart in a world that keeps asking me to be more than I can be. So before sleep takes me again, I'll let this be my last prayer for the day. Not polished, not perfect, but whole in its simplicity. Stay with me, God. Not just through the dark, but through the dawn that follows. Stay through my silence, through my trying, through my forgetting and finding again. Because every time I lose my words, you give them back to me, not as sentences, but as peace. And if tomorrow begins the same way this day will end, with quiet, with uncertainty, with need, let it also begin with presence, with you. Because I think that's the real miracle. Not that I find you in extraordinary moments, but that you never leave in the ordinary ones. So as night returns, I'll rest without fear. I'll rest knowing you're still here. Just as you were last night, listening, holding, loving without condition. And even if I never learn to say it better, I'll keep saying it anyway, because it's the truest thing I know. God, I need you still, always, more than I can say. The night has come full circle, Lord, the same kind of quiet as before, but different somehow. It feels older, wiser, as if this silence remembers everything that's passed between us. The darkness doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels full of all the things I didn't have words for, all the moments you understood anyway. And now, as I sit here one last time, I realize this isn't just the end of a prayer, it's a return to where I began, to you. I've spent so much of my life trying to make faith sound eloquent, trying to give it shape and rhythm, trying to speak it beautifully enough to prove it's real. But here, at the end of all these nights, I see what you've been teaching me, that the truest faith often has no language. It just breathes. It endures. It sits quietly beside the mystery without needing to solve it. It knows that being known by you is enough. When this began, I was afraid of silence. I thought it meant distance, neglect, emptiness. Now I know it was your mercy. You used it like a slow, gentle tide to wash away everything that wasn't real. The striving, the self-criticism, the guilt that kept pretending I had to earn your closeness. You waited until the noise was gone so I could finally hear what had been true all along. You were never far. You never needed my performance. You just wanted my honesty, and I finally gave it to you. So tonight, I won't ask for anything more. No blessings, no breakthroughs, no perfect ending. Just this, that you stay near the way you always do. That you keep teaching me to find you in the small, quiet places. That you keep softening me into the kind of person who listens instead of rushes, who trusts instead of explains, who loves instead of fears. Because I see it now, love was always the point. Not certainty, not strength. Love. The kind that doesn't need to speak to be known. The kind that sits through long silences and still believes it's communion. The kind that shows up every night, every morning, no matter how empty my hands feel. You've been that kind of love for me, and all I want now is to learn how to mirror toward myself, toward others, toward the world that forgets how to be gentle. I don't think I'll ever stop needing you. Not in the way I once thought, not as rescue, not as proof, but as rhythm, as the steady pulse beneath everything. The way the sea keeps breathing against the shore, the way stars keep burning in silence. That's what you've become to me, the constant that holds everything else in motion. And maybe that's the secret you wanted me to find, that need itself is holy. Independence isn't a flaw, but a form of worship, that when I admit I can't hold everything alone, I make room for the one who already holds it all. My weakness isn't the end of faith, it's the door through which you enter. So, as I close this long conversation, this series of nights and mornings that have stretched my heart wider than words, I offer you everything that remains unsaid, every ache that still hums quietly under my ribs, every hope that hasn't found its shape yet, every failure that still feels tender. I lay it all here, in the same silence where we began, trusting you'll understand what I can't explain. Thank you for not leaving when I ran out of words. Thank you for meeting me in the spaces between them. Thank you for teaching me that love doesn't always sound like answers. Sometimes it sounds like breath, like stillness, like the steady heartbeat of grace. I know life will get loud again. I know there will be more nights like this, more days that blur, more moments when I forget how to pray. But now I know what to do when that happens. I'll come back to this place, the place of wordless honesty, of gentle dependence, and I'll sit with you again, unafraid of the silence, certain of your nearness. Because this is how faith ends and begins, not with thunder, but with whisper, not with resolution, but with rest, not with the right words, but with a heart that finally stops trying to impress you and simply lets itself be loved. So as I close my eyes tonight, I'll let go of everything that still feels unfinished. I'll let the silence cover it like a blanket, and I'll trust that you're here in it, breathing with me, holding what I cannot hold, speaking where I cannot speak. If this is the last thing I ever manage to say, let it carry everything I mean. God, I need you more than I can say. Then, now, always. In every silence, in every breath, in every small human moment between beginning and ending, I need you. And somehow, through all the quiet, I finally believe